Hi, everybody. I'm here with James Gardner. We've been doing a series talking about mainly AI in talent acquisition, a little bit about the future of talent acquisition, but it's all connected, isn't it? So today we're going to be talking about the premise that if AI improves the process, why are hiring decisions still so inconsistent? James, set us off.
Okay. So great to see you again, Adam. I think on this topic, we are seeing that AI is obviously helping in terms of improving sourcing. It's helping in terms of structuring interviews. It's helping in terms of standardizing feedback. It surfaces insight. We know that we get a lot of data. So in theory, we should feel that hiring should be getting better. But in my experience, maybe that's not the case. So surely with that level of input from AI, hiring should be more consistent. It should be more objective. It should be more predictable. And yet decisions are still inconsistent. So we really need to understand why that is, because we're seeing still that feedback from different hiring managers might contradict itself. Hiring panels still disagree. So if AI is improving the process, why aren't the outcomes improving at the same rate?
Okay, so my immediate answer to this and my basic answer to this is going to be because recruitment is like herding cats and humans are difficult to control. And what do you think to that?
So, I mean, I think that leads us on perfectly. Yeah, love the analogy. But I think the problem is not process, it's misalignment. So, if you've got different hiring managers, you have often a lack of clarity. You've got differing alignments in terms of expectation, differing thoughts about, okay, what does good look like? And also, I think a differing understanding of what risks are involved in hiring that individual. And as a result of that, you've got different risk tolerance. So if you can't, well, let's think about it. We've standardized the process. So surely we should be able to standardize and align the people. And I think what AI is doing is giving what I'd call an impression of objectivity. So it's got structured interviews, structured frameworks, aggregated feedback. Everything is being pulled in, and all the data is there for us all to see. But structure isn't actually alignment on decision making. Two interviewers can have the same questions, have the same scorecard, and still very easily reach different conclusions because individuals, depending on who they are, their personality traits, interpret signals very differently. So if you kind of understand that AI collects the signals, it can display and illustrate, but interpretation, which is judgment, is influenced by experience of the hiring manager, bias, context of the situation, personal standards. So without that calibration, and we go back to we discussed in previous episodes, clarity, signal then becomes noise again because there's not the alignment in terms of what does good look like, and going back further upstream, what is the problem we're trying to solve? And I think that's the fundamental issue.
Yeah, I mean, I think about I think about recruiting in terms of we want standardized processes. We want consistent experiences for everybody, for the hiring managers and the candidates and all that sort of thing. Do you think there's a risk that we go too far into creating a kind of paint by numbers type of approach? Because at the end of the day, everybody is different. And like, I mean, as somebody who's a 10 out of 10 for me is not going to be a 10 out of 10 for you necessarily. They might be, but
Yeah.
they're unlikely to be. And because you and I are slightly different. And so I wonder if we sometimes think about this and try to go too far in binary processes.
Well, I think that's definitely the case. I don't know whether you've seen, but I've done a very huge LinkedIn post about my whole journey of
So, yeah.
looking for a new role. And it's very clear that we have built our systems based for volume, not for signal. And I understand why we have completely, because if you're in a large enterprise organization, you need very standardized process because you're dealing with volume. If you're a scaling tech organization, you want to have standardized processes, because if you don't, you will find your cost of acquisition trends upwards as you scale. And that's, if we look at the whole point of scale, going back to kind of Adam Smith, economies of scale, etc., that's not what we're looking for. So yes, I think we've definitely designed what I would class as a manufacturing process. But there has to be a balance, because we need that for our cost efficiency ratios. But I think we're also missing out on great potential of superb candidates that kind of are falling into this black hole of the ATS. So it goes back to, yes, we don't have to customize every single journey, but I think we've designed systems over the years that are now failing to recognize where potential might be, because we rely on so much on automation. I'm not saying we shouldn't. I'm a great believer in AI as enabler, but I'm not a great believer in AI as being the judgment process. Because, I mean, if you think about that decision-making gap on hiring or not, it's about trade-offs, because you've got to think about complexity versus scale versus return on investment. You've got to think about, as an individual, as a hire, do we prioritize potential or do we prioritize experience? For where we're at as an organization, and this goes back to another kind of podcast that we did around what does good mean? What's the top 1%? And the top 1% means something very different depending on where you are as an organization in your journey. And is the question, is this good enough for the stage we're actually at as an organization? So I think it goes back to clarity. But yes, I think we have a bottleneck within our systems which isn't highlighting or illustrating the right information to us. It's setting specific guardrails, which is then what I would call identifying a core number of individuals who tick a certain amount of boxes.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying here, and I think this is really important. So you used the word manufacturing earlier on, and you reminded me of Scott McCrae, my co-founder at Candidate ID, used to talk about the concept of manufacturing demand in talent acquisition, and what he meant by that was you're manufacturing the demand for people to want to work for your organization. And I remember Specsavers used to apply this to hiring optometrists. My dentist used to apply it to hiring dentists. Pets at Home used to apply it to hiring vets. These are all highly qualified roles, but this is also volume, right?
Yeah.
But when you move into much more ambiguous territory, like you're working in, say, head office hiring, where like every role is potentially a purple squirrel. There's a lot more nuance in each of these things, and recruiters have to. And somebody commented on a LinkedIn post yesterday of ours, which was, in fact, it wasn't ours, it was Wilson, the RPO. We just announced an interesting partnership, well, a big partnership with Wilson. And somebody said that's really great positioning by Poetry, because they focused on experienced hire, talent acquisition, and that's where all the ambiguity is, and that's where all the assets and things need to be very, very different. And it's just making me think that recruiters, one of the key skills for recruiters needs to be the ability to live in a world of ambiguity.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is one of the things that pulls us back to the AI question in my mind. We've always looked at strong recruiters in our talent teams, of individuals being able to deal with volume, move at pace, have attention to detail, but really move things fast. With AI, what we're actually going to surface is recruiters who maybe lack that judgment skill, lack that empathy, lack that influencing capability, because we're removing, let's call it 60% of what was a daily, I'm not going to call it laborious, but a daily required task, which was a huge percentage of a recruiter's time. We're now automating that. And as a result of that, I think we will find we will be relying on very, not different skills, they've always been there, but focusing on different skills.
Absolutely. James, it's been great to talk to you. This is a really interesting topic, another one, and I'll see you again very soon.
Yep, sounds good.